The boat next to yours explodes when you're halfway across the Volga. The man who was sitting where you would have been sitting if you'd boarded 30 seconds earlier becomes part of the river. You don't see him. You hear the shell, you feel the wave hit your boat from the side, then the cold, then nothing for what feels like a long time. You wake up holding a piece of wood that used to be part of something. The river is moving you sideways in the dark. You can see the burning West Bank 100 meters away. The West Bank is Stalingrad. The West Bank is where you are supposed to be. You're 19 years old. Your name doesn't matter to anyone except your mother. 3 weeks ago, you were home in a village outside Saratov. 2 weeks ago, you were given a uniform that didn't fit, and 4 days of training. Yesterday, a sergeant in a holding camp told you, in the same tone a man reads a weather report, that the average life expectancy of a Red Army infantryman on the west bank of the Volga is less than 24 hours. You crawl out of the river onto the bank where the boats land, and you become a number that has not yet been crossed off. The first night, October 14th, 1942. You're attached to a rifle company defending the lower part of the city. The streets are not streets anymore. They are rubble and craters and the burned shells of factories. You learn the geography by where the snipers shoot from. North of the tractor factory, German snipers in the third floor of what used to be a school. East of the railway station, your own snipers in the basement of a destroyed hotel. The map you were given is useless. The city your superiors describe in their briefings does not exist. What exists is a series of ruined rooms connected by holes blown through walls. The Germans call it Rattenkrieg, War of the Rats. They are not wrong about that. Your sergeant gives you a rifle. He gives you 14 rounds. He tells you that more rounds will come when more men die. He says this casually. You understand that he is not being cruel. He is being accurate. Your first action lasts 40 minutes. You fire your rifle 6 times. You don't know if you hit anything. 2 men in your section are killed. One of them is the boy you sat next to during the river crossing. He was from your district. You knew his older brother. His name was Pyotr. By the time the action ends, his name has stopped being important, and you don't know how that happened so fast. By morning, your unit has been reduced from 28 men to 17. The sergeant tells you this is a good ratio. You don't know what a bad ratio looks like. You learn the next day when there are 11 of you. 2 nights later, you get separated from your unit during a building clearance. You don't know how. One moment you are following the man in front of you through a hole in a wall. The next moment there is a flash and the ringing in your ears blocks out everything else. When you can hear again, you are alone in the basement of a building you don't recognize, and there is someone else down there with you. He is sitting against the far wall. He is wearing a German uniform. He is not pointing a weapon at you. His weapon is on the floor next to him, just out of reach of his hand, and his hand is pressed against his side where the wound is. You raise your rifle. He looks at you. He doesn't move. He says something in German you don't understand. Then he says something in Russian, slowly, with an accent. He says, "I cannot fight you. I cannot run. Do what you want." Your hands are shaking. You have killed exactly 1 man so far in your life, and you didn't see his face. You have never killed someone who was looking at you. You lower the rifle, not all the way, halfway. He nods. He says, "Thank you." He says his name is Marcus. You sit on the opposite side of the cellar with your rifle on your lap. He bleeds slowly into his uniform. Outside, the city does what the city does at night. Artillery in the north. Small arms in 3 directions. Somewhere a building is collapsing in stages, the way a building collapses when nobody is putting it back together. After a long time, he pulls something out of his coat. It's a piece of bread, black, hard at the edges, the kind that German soldiers carry. He holds it out toward you across the cellar floor. You don't move. He puts it on the floor halfway between you and turns his face to the wall. You wait. You watch him. Then you crawl forward and take the bread. You eat half of it. You crawl back and put the other half down where he can reach it. He turns his head and sees the half. He smiles in a way that has nothing happy in it. He pulls something else from his coat. A harmonica. Small, brass, dented. He doesn't play it, he just holds it. He says, "My sister gave me this. In Dresden." Before, you don't say anything because you don't know what to say. He says, "I am 19 years old. You are also 19 years old." You don't tell him. He says, "I keep coming back to this place. I don't know why." You think his fever is making him talk strange. You don't ask what he means. He tells you about Dresden, about a sister named Anna, about a bakery on a street he names that you forget immediately because the name is German and your brain is exhausted. He tells you he was a music student before the conscription. He plays the harmonica because he can't bring a violin to war. He tells you the violin is at home, on his bed, where his sister sometimes sits when she misses him. You tell him, eventually, about your mother, about the village, about the little brother who was 6 years old and was crying when you left, and you couldn't say anything that would make it stop. You don't know why you tell him. He is the only person in this cellar who is listening. At some point in the night, he plays the harmonica, quietly. A song you don't recognize, but that sounds like it was written by someone who has been a person for a long time. The notes carry through the cellar and stop at the walls. He stops playing. He looks at the wall behind you for a long second, long enough that you turn and look. There's nothing there, just rubble and a beam and the dark. He says, "Sometimes I feel like someone is watching." You don't know what to say to that either. Before dawn, he tells you the section of cellar that connects to the next building. He tells you which way the German lines are. He tells you to leave before light. He says, "They will kill you in the morning when they sweep this block. I cannot kill you tonight. So you should go." You look at him. He is going to bleed to death in this cellar, or he is going to be found by your unit and shot, or he is going to crawl out into the snow and die slower. None of those endings are ones you can change. You ask him if he wants you to leave the bread. He says, "Take it." I am finished with eating. You take it. You crawl out through the hole in the wall he showed you. You don't say goodbye. You don't say anything. The last thing you see of him is the harmonica in his hand, and the way his head is tilted slightly toward the wall behind where you were sitting, like he is still looking for the someone who isn't there. You find your unit at dawn. You don't tell anyone where you were. You don't tell anyone what happened. You especially don't tell anyone that you spent a night in a cellar with a German soldier and ate his bread and listened to him play a song you didn't know on a harmonica his sister gave him in Dresden before. You learn that this is what soldiers do with most of what happens to them. They put it somewhere inside themselves and they keep walking. The men who don't do this don't last long. The men who do last just long enough to forget how to talk to anyone who wasn't there. You're transferred to a sniper position in early November. Your sergeant told someone that you could shoot, and you don't know if that is true, but the request goes through anyway. You spend a week in a building 200 meters from the front, learning to breathe out slowly and to wait for hours in cold without moving. You become a man who watches a window through a scope until a man appears in it and then makes him not appear in it anymore. You find that you can do this. You don't know what that says about you, and you decide that you don't need to know. The German you killed in your first action, the one whose face you didn't see, you've decided he was probably 40 years old, married, had children. You don't know why this story comforts you, but it does. Each time you take a shot through the scope, you tell yourself the man in the scope is 40, married, has children. The lie is small enough to be portable. You carry it everywhere. You don't think about Marcus during the day. You think about him at night, when the artillery slows down enough for thinking to start. You wonder if he made it out of the cellar. You wonder if his sister Anna in Dresden has a letter on the way to her, and what the letter will say, and what version of his last hours she will be told. In late November, the news travels down to your unit that something has happened to the north. The Soviet counteroffensive has begun. Operation Uranus has closed a circle around the German 6th Army. 300,000 German soldiers are now trapped inside Stalingrad with no supply lines, no way out, and a winter that is starting to do what Russian winters do. The Germans don't know yet that they're going to die in numbers that no one will be able to count properly. Your generals already know. They expect the rest of the battle to take another 2 months. Your unit moves into a sector that was German territory yesterday. You take up a position in the upper floor of a half-collapsed apartment building. Through your scope, you watch a window across a courtyard, 220 meters away. You wait. A figure appears in the window. German uniform. The face is not clear at this distance, but the silhouette is. He is looking out at the snow with his hands in his pockets, the way a man stands when he is having a moment that is not active fighting, and he has forgotten briefly that he is in a war. He is just standing there. You exhale slowly. You take the shot. The figure drops. Your spotter pats your shoulder. He says, confirmed. You move forward with your unit 2 days later when the position is taken. You go up to the room where you watch the figure fall. There is a body in a German uniform near the window. The face is mostly gone, but you can see enough of the side of it. Young. 19, maybe. You search the body for documents. This is what snipers do. You find papers in a language you can barely read. You find a small photograph of a young woman with her hair tied back, smiling at whoever was holding the camera. You turn it over. There is a name written on the back in small, careful German script. You have just enough school German left to read it. Anna. You find a brass harmonica, dented, smaller than the size of your palm. You sit down on the floor of the apartment with the harmonica in your hand. Outside, the artillery continues. Inside, your spotter is calling for you from the next room. Inside, time is doing something different. The room is the same room and a different room. The hands in your lap are your hands and someone else's hands. You sit there for a long time. You don't tell your unit what is in your hand. You put the harmonica in your pocket. You take the photograph too. You finish the sweep. You return to your position. You shoot 2 more men that afternoon. You hit both. You confirm both kills. The lie about 40 years old, married, has children, doesn't work anymore. You haven't found a new lie yet. The 6th Army surrenders on February 2nd, 1943. You are part of the unit that walks among the prisoners after the surrender. 91,000 Germans in lines that go on for kilometers, all of them frostbitten, half of them starving, none of them looking at you. You walk past them looking for a face you know you will not find. You look anyway. A Soviet officer asks you what you are doing. You tell him you are looking for someone. He laughs in a way that has nothing happy in it and says, "Aren't we all?" Of those 91,000 prisoners, fewer than 6,000 will live to see Germany again. The rest will die in Soviet camps over the next decade. You don't know this yet. None of them know this yet. But standing among them, watching them shuffle through the snow toward whatever the next thing is, you feel something close to what you imagine pity might feel like if you still had room for it. You survive the war. Not many do. Out of the men who crossed the Volga with you on October 14th, 1942, 3 are alive at the end of the battle. Out of those 3, 1 will live to see Berlin in 1945. None of you keep in touch afterward. There is nothing to say to each other that wouldn't make it worse. You do not write to Anna in Dresden. You think about it for years. You compose the letter in your head 1,000 times. You write down what you would say. Then you read what you wrote, and you understand that there is no version of this letter that is not worse than not knowing. You understand also that Dresden was firebombed in February 1945, and that Anna may not be alive to read any letter from anyone, and you do not know how to find out whether she is. And you decide, finally, that not knowing is the kindness you owe her. So you don't send it. You keep the harmonica. You keep the photograph. You move them from drawer to drawer in different apartments over decades. They are not on display. They are in the back, behind things, under things. They are not a memory you visit. They are a fact you carry the way you carry the shape of your own ribs. Sometimes, in the years after, when you are old and your wife is asleep and the apartment is quiet, you take the harmonica out of the drawer and hold it. You don't play it. You don't know how. You just hold it and try to remember the song he played in the cellar that night, and you can't. because the song was his and not yours, and the only person who knew it is dead in a window in Stalingrad in November of 1942 with a hole in the side of his head that you put there. He looked at the wall behind you that night, like he was looking at someone else, like he knew he was being seen by someone neither of you could see. He said, "I keep coming back to this place. I don't know why. You don't think about that part very often. When you do, you don't have a way to think about it that makes sense. So you put it back in the drawer with everything else, and you close the drawer and you go to bed, and the city you were in stops being a city you were in for a few hours until you wake up. The Volga still freezes every winter. The river that was full of bodies in the autumn of 1942 still flows through Volgograd today, which is what they renamed Stalingrad in 1961. You have not been back. You will not go. What you have is what you took out of that cellar, a harmonica, a photograph of a woman whose brother you killed, a name that may not have been his real name, and a song you cannot remember, and a sentence you have never been able to explain. I keep coming back to this place. You don't know what he meant. You will never know. Some battles never end. Some men keep coming back.